Hey everybody, I'm going to see if I can do this today on the document camera and give you a few extra notes than what I had from a week ago. So I'm still looking at reconstitution of solutions, and from what we did last week, when you reconstitute a medication, you're just mixing it with some kind of solution. Generally it's a sterile water, sometimes it's a biostatic water, but the label or the package insert will always tell you what kind of diluent to use. When reconstituting injectable medications, you've got to determine the volume in milliliters of diluent to be used, and that's also found on the label. You need to know if it's a multiple dose injectable medication and verify the length of the drug potency. And then you're going to store the reconstituted drug approximately with a reconstitution, or appropriately, with a reconstitution label attached. Some of this you'll get more into when you get into the nursing department or the nursing program. But most of the time the pharmacy will dilute your medications or reconstitute your medications, but there's occasions that when you have a medication that you need to give, it's only viable for a short amount of time. That means it only has the consistent potency, or the potency that's needed for a very short length of time, so you have to dilute it on the floor right before you give it. But let's look at these. Example, or number one here. The order is erythromycin 400 milligrams IV daily times 2 days. So just like everything else, we're going to eventually have to know our 400 milligrams. We have to know it's an IV. Now to get to answer these questions, how much diluent will you add? It's going to be in this fine print, and I've got this circled here because my diluent is 4.8 milliliters of sterile water. It says, see accompanying prescription information, constitute to 100 milligrams per milliliter with 4.8 milliliters of sterile water for injection. So the diluent that I'm going to add is 4.8 milliliters. And then it says, what is the resulting supply dosage? My supply dosage, it's always a rate, okay? And most of the time it's going to be milligrams, micrograms per milliliter. So if we look again, it's going to be back in our small print. This 500 milligrams here is my total medication. So that's not my supply dosage. If I read over here, it says constitute to 100 milligrams per milliliter. That's my resulting supply dosage, 100 milligrams per milliliter. Then I want to know what's going to be the total volume, and that's the total volume in the vial. Okay, if I add 4.8 milliliters, how much volume am I going to have? Am I going to have 4.8 milliliters, or is that enough to just thicken the liquid? And so the powder is going to be thick, and like that old can't think of what it is now. Y'all know me in words. So to find the total volume, you're taking your total medication over 1 times your supply dose, which is your what you have on hand, and your quantities on top. So it's quantity over what you have on hand. So in this case, my total medication's the 500 milligrams. And then my supply dose, my 100 milligrams per milliliter, while my quantity is on top. My half is on bottom. My milligrams is going to cancel. I can cancel 2 zeros. So 5 times 1 gives me 5 milliliters for my total volume. So see, I'm just going to have, I'm adding 4.8 milliliters. So when I add that small amount to that vial, it's going to just thicken the liquid, and it's going to show that we're actually going to have more volume than we have added water. So we have what's called displacement. I'm not really going to get into that. All right, D part is how many full doses are in the vial. Full doses meaning, I don't want the partial dose if it's got a point after it. I want the number of full doses that you can give. So I take, again, this is where I take my total medication. And I'm going to divide it by my doctor's orders. What has the doctor ordered? Okay, our doctor ordered the 400 milligrams. So I'm going to take my total medication. Again, that's the 500 milligrams that you see on the label. I'm going to divide it by what my doctor ordered, which is the 400 milligrams. A couple of zeros, it'll cancel. So I have 5/4. And I know that's going to be 1 1/4. Well, I only want the number of full doses, so I don't want that 1/4. I don't care about that. I want the 1, so I have 1 full dose. Care how much is left over. The last part of this question is how many milliliters will you give? And this is what we've been doing since we started in chapter 10. Okay? I want to know what I'm going to administer, how much am I going to give the patient. So in this case it's milliliters. And this is where I have my doctor's orders, which is 400 milligrams over 1 times my quantity, and this is my supply. Okay, what I'm giving always goes back to my supply dose. So 1 milliliter over 100 milligrams. So the milligrams cancel, my 2 zeros cancel. I get 4 times 1 over 1, so I'm going to have 4 milliliters. That's how many milliliters I'm going to give. So remember, A and B come from your fine print. Okay? C and D need your total medication. And E is just what we've been doing all the way through. So let's look at number 2. We have an order of ampicillin, 500 milligrams IM every 6 hours for a patient with pneumonia. So how much diluent will you add? So we're going to read in our fine print. Sometimes we might need to take it and turn it around. This is for IM use, and this is an IM dose. I need 3.5 milliliters of diluent. So for how much diluent will you add? I'm going to add 3.5 milliliters. Okay. What's the resulting supply dose? Again, that's over here in my fine print. Resulting solution contains 250 milligrams ampicillin per 1 milliliter. Use solution within 1 hour. So I'm saying this is one that you would have to reconstitute on the floor because you've got to give it within a certain amount of time. If the pharmacy was to reconstitute it in the lab, then they might not get it to you in time. So our resulting supply dosage was 250 milligrams per 1 milliliter. And then our resulting volume, okay, again, it might not be 3.5 milliliters. It may be more. It'll never be less, but it may be more. All right, my total medication is 1 gram. We all know that 1 gram equals 1,000 milligrams. So in this case, since my doctor's orders and my supply dose are all in milligrams, I can go ahead and convert my 1 gram to 1,000 milligrams. So for the resulting volume, it's my total medication over 1 times my quantity over what I have on hand. So my total medication is 1,000 milligrams over 1. And then my quantity goes back. Remember, this always goes back to my supply dose. 1 milliliter over 250 milligrams. So my milligrams cancel. I can cancel a 0. Now I've got 100 divided by 25. 100 divided by 25 is 4 milliliters. So I'm going to give 4 milliliters. And then how many full doses are in the vial? Again, this goes back to my total of medication over 1. It's not over 1. It's my total medication over my doctor's orders, what my doctor ordered. So in this case, again, I'm going to use the 1,000 milligrams because it was 1 gram. My doctor's orders is 500 milligrams. So my milligrams cancel. I can cancel 2 zeros. Then I have 10 divided by 5, which is 2. So I have 2 full doses in the vial. And then how many milliliters will you give? Okay, again, what we've been doing, what we did in Chapter 10, what we did in Chapter 11. So I'm looking for milliliters. It's my doctor's orders, which is 500 milligrams, which is my desired, times my quantity, which is my supply dose again, 1 milliliter over what I have on hand, 250 milligrams. My milligrams cancel. I can cancel a 0. Then I have 50 divided by 25, and I get 2 milliliters. So I'm going to give 2 milliliters. Okay. If you need to pause this, you can at any time and then restart it. That's one thing about these videos. Okay, number 3, I have an order of ampicillin, 375 milligrams, IM. That's what I need to know. So how much diluent will you add? That's what I needed to know for my doctor's order. So how much diluent will you add? You're going to read your fine print. Add 1.8 milliliters of diluent. That was easy, 1.8 milliliters. Trying to autofocus this and it won't stay focused. Alright, then what's my resulting supply dosage? So I go over here, read accompanying insert. Resulting solution contains 250 milligrams ampicillin per milliliter. Remember IM, so I've got to use the IM here. So 250 milligrams per 1 milliliter. So what's the resulting total volume? How many milliliters are in the vial? Okay, so it goes to total medication over 1 times my quantity over what I have, which again is my supply dose. Total medication is 375 milligrams over 1. Nope, I just did that wrong. No, I didn't. Total medication. I did that part right. Sorry. I wish I could back up and repeat. Total medications. Total medication in the vial, not the total medication the doctor ordered. So total medication in the vial is 500 milligrams. I love whiteout. Times my quantity over half, which is my supply dosage. 1 milliliter over 250 milligrams. So again, milligrams cancels. I can cancel a 0, and I have 50 divided by 25, which is 2 milliliters. So my resulting volume is 2 milliliters. How many full doses are in the vial? I'm going to take, again, the total medication over the doctor's order. My total medication is the 500 milligrams. My doctor's orders is the 375 milligrams. My milligrams cancel. And I'm going to take my calculator, because I'm lazy today. Do 500 divided by 375. And I get 1.3 repeating. Okay, again, I'm looking for full doses, so I don't care anything at all about this 0.3. I have one full dose. We're not going to round up, not going to round down. We're just not going to worry about the decimal part of it, or the fraction part of it. And then how many milliliters will you give? So this is my doctor's orders, 375 milligrams over 1, times my supply, my quantity over half, so 1 milliliter over 250 milligrams. So my milligrams cancel. Again, take my calculator. I should have just left it over here. And I got 375 divided by 250. 375 divided by 250, and I get 1.5 milliliters. So I'm going to give 1.5 milliliters. Okay, so just like in class, I'm going to skip some of these, but I'm going to help you with this one. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'm going to give you a couple of hints. 0.5 grams. Again, we know 1 gram equals 1,000 milliliters. Milligrams. So 0.5 is a half of a gram. That's going to equal 500 milligrams. Be sure to read the fine print as to find your diluent and your supply dose. And then I'll have the answers to these that I'm skipping on Canvas worked out. Actually, I have the answers to this whole thing worked out, but I'll put this one up too. All right. So I'm going to let you work number 4 and number 5. And we're going to look at number 6 together because it's a different type. This time we're looking at penicillin G potassium, 300,000 units IM every 6 hours. Notice it's 300,000 units. Okay, there's not going to be a conversion because units only go to units. But now if we look at the Pfizer-pen, if we look at the label, I'm going to try to pull that in close so you can see. a lot easier doing it this way than it is to the other. And that still doesn't want to autofocus. Oh, I had it. Where did it go? Okay. So, notice it says units per milliliter. So this is 50,000 units per milliliter. 100,000 units per milliliter. This is 20 milliliters. I don't know why it has the trailing zero, so we're not going to look at that. That's got a trailing zero. They've all got trailing zeros. Whoops, that one didn't. That was 1.8. Excuse me for that one. So if I add 20 milliliters of diluent, I'm going to get 50,000 units per 1 milliliter. Okay? So let's go back and look. My screen. Okay. Let's see if I can do this again and get it to. Okay. So I've already given you this time the how much diluent will you add. We're going to add the 20 milliliters. Our resulting supply dosage is the 50,000 units per milliliter. Okay? And it comes from right over here, this part of it. 20 milliliters. I'm going to have 50,000 units per 1 milliliter. So what's the resulting total volume? It's just like we did before. Our total medication over 1 times our quantity over what we have on hand. So if you look, our total medication is 1 million units. Okay? So 1 million, it's got 6 zeros. So 1 million units over 1. My quantity is 1 milliliter. What I have on hand is 50,000 units. So my units cancel. This is where I tell you that when you cancel zeros, it comes in handy. I have 4 zeros that I can cancel. So I can cancel 4 zeros here. That leaves me with 100 divided by 5. 100 divided by 5 is 20 milliliters. So this time, our total volume is the same amount as the diluent we added. So we had enough diluent to dissolve all the powder. So how many full doses are in the vial? Just like what we've been doing, our total medication divided by our doctor's order. So our total medication is 1 million units. Make sure you put the word units. Over our order is 300,000 units. Got it off the screen. 300,000 units. So I cancel 5 and cancel 5. I get 10 over 3, which is 3 1/3 units. Again, all I'm worried about is the full doses. So I have 3 full doses in the vial. Okay. Now, still using the same medication label, but we're going to look, whoops, I forgot to say how much are you going to give. I almost missed one. So it's my doctor's orders, 300,000 units over 1 times my supply, which is my quantity, over my units. just 50,000 units. Cancel 4 zeros. I can cancel 4 zeros. My units cancel. So now I have 30 divided by 5, which is 6 milliliters. Okay, so that's a little much to give. So maybe we don't want to add the 20 milliliters, because this is for an IM. And the maximum you're supposed to give in an intramuscular shot is 3 milliliters. So let's look at the 10 milliliters. If we add 10 milliliters of diluent, what's our resulting supply dosage? So if I go over here and look at 10 milliliters, I get 100,000 units per milliliter. So 100,000 units per milliliter. So then my resulting volume is my total medication over 1 times my quantity over half. So my total medication is 1 million units. Times my quantity, which is 1 milliliter, and what I have on hand this time is 100,000 units. So my units cancel. I've got 5 zeros I can cancel. So 10 divided by 1 is 10, so I have 10 milliliters. All right. So how many full doses are in the vial? So full doses, total medication divided by the doctor's order, or desired. My total medication is the 1 million units. The doctor's orders is 300,000 units. So my units cancel. I've got 5 zeros that will cancel. That leaves me with 10 over 3, which is 3 1/3. So again, I've got 3 full doses. And then, how many milliliters will you give? So that's my doctor's orders, the 300,000 units over 1 times my supply, 1 milliliter over 100,000 units. So I can cancel 5 zeros. 3 divided by 1 is 3, so I can give 3 milliliters. Okay, and that's okay. We can give 3 milliliters. But what if we got a small patient that we're going to have to hold down? How many milliliters? So let's see what if we add 4 milliliters. What will that give us? So what is our resulting supply dosage? If I look back up here, 4 milliliters gives me 250 units, 250,000 units per milligram, or let me write it, 250,000 units per milliliter. My resulting volume is my total medication, which again is still 1 million units, over 1 times my quantity, which is 1 milliliter, over my units, 250,000. So I've got 4 on the bottom, which means I can cancel 4 on the top. So I have 100 divided by 24. So I have 4 milliliters of volume. So again, this is one of those times that the milliliters is actually the diluent, how much diluent you add will actually equal how many milliliters you have in your vial. So how many full doses are in the vial? So this takes my total medication over my doctor's order. Are y'all seeing a pattern here? 1 million units. Doctor's order is 300,000 units. Cancel 5 zeros, cancel 5 zeros. I've got 10 over 3. So it's 3 full doses. So, you know, it was 3 full doses on the 20 milliliter one. It's 3 full doses on the 10 milliliter one. It's 3 full doses on the 4 milliliter one. Because our total amount of medication and our doctor's orders never change with the amount of diluent we're using. Okay, so we'll always have 3 full doses. We're giving smaller amounts, but they're more concentrated amounts. So how many milliliters will I give? My doctor's orders is 300,000 units over 1 times my supply, which is 1 milliliter over 250,000 units. So my units cancel. I have 4 zeros. I can cancel 4 zeros. So I have 30 over 25. So 30 divided by 25 is 1.2. I'm going to give 1.2 milliliters. Okay, so y'all getting the hang of this, I hope. All right, so the last one. If I'm giving you 1.8 milliliters, that's how much diluent you're going to add. We go up here and look. 1.8 milliliters is 500,000 units. Whoops, sorry. 1.8 milliliters is 500,000 units per milliliter. So my supply dose is 500,000 units per milliliter. My resulting total volume is the total amount of medication, which is the 1 million units, over 1, times my supply, so my quantity over what I have on hand, the 500,000 units. So I'm going to cancel 5 here, cancel 5 here. I've got 10 divided by 5, which gives me 2 milliliters. Forgot to cancel my units. So I have 2 milliliters. Adding 1.8 milliliters, so it's going to give me a little bit of displacement. So how many full doses are in the vial? I'm not working this one again. It's the same thing. It's 3 full doses because it's my total medication over my doctor's orders. So 1 million units over 300,000 units. It's the same thing. How many milliliters will you give? Doctor's orders is for 300,000 units over 1 times my supply. My supply is 500,000 units per 1 milliliter. So my quantity over my supply, or over my dose. So units cancel. 5 zeros. Cancel 5 zeros. So I end up with 3/5. So 3 divided by 5 is 0.6. So 0.6 milliliters. Okay. When you're working these, when you're trying to determine how much you're going to give, or how much diluent you're going to add, you don't have to work all of them out. I just wanted us to work all of them out to see a couple of things, to see that no matter how much diluent we added, that our supply dose was going to, or our number of full doses in the vial was going to be the same. And it also gave us the extra practice that the more I added, the more milliliters I was going to give. the less diluent I added, the less milliliters I was going to give. Okay, so what I would look at on this one, it's asking for 300,000 units. It's in the IM. So I'd go over here and find something that was close to 300,000 units or easy to figure out. So I would use I'd either do the 10 milliliters or the 4 milliliters because it's 100,000 units per milliliter, or it's the 250,000 units per milliliter. Depends on what size the patient is. So you don't have to work all of them out. You just have to work at least one. I would love to ask any questions, but y'all aren't here for me to answer any questions. So you can always email me, text me, or message me. Alright, so looking at number 7, it's pretty much just like we did number 6. My order is 400 milligrams IV every 12 hours. This one's an IV. So it says in here, for IM administration, this is what we're going to give. For IV administration, see the package insert. Well, here's my package insert. Okay. So ceftriaxone for injection should be administered intravenously by infusion over a period of 30 minutes. Concentration between 10 milligrams per milliliter and 40 milligrams per milliliter are recommended. However, lower concentrations may be used if desired. Reconstitute vials with an appropriate IV diluent. After reconstitution, each 1 milliliter of solution contains approximately 100 milligrams, equivalent of ceftriaxone. Withdraw entire contents and dilute to the desired concentration with the appropriate IV diluent. So what we look at to see how much diluent we're going to need, we have to look. The vial dosage size is, do we have a 250 milligram, a 500 milligram, a 1 gram, or a 2 gram vial? So we go over here and look. We have a 1 gram vial. So I'm going to use the 1 gram, and I'm adding 9.6 milliliters of diluent. Now, what is my resulting supply dosage? You notice I underlined each 1 milliliter of solution contains approximately 100 milligrams, equivalent of ceftriaxone. That's my supply dosage. So it's 100 milligrams per 1 milliliter. What's the resulting total volume? Just like we did on every other problem today. It's our total medication in the vial, so 1 gram, and again, since everything's in milligrams, we know 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. So my total medication, I'm going to use 1,000 milligrams over 1 times my supply, my quantity over my amount. So 1 milliliter over 100 milligrams. My milligrams cancels. I've got 2 zeros that will cancel. 10 times 1 over 1 gives me 10 milliliters. So I have a total volume of 10 milliliters in the vial. And then how many full doses are in the vial? Again, that goes to our total medication, which is 1,000 milligrams because it's 1 gram, over my doctor's orders, which is 400 milligrams. I've got to get that straight. This is the total medication over the doctor's order. So I can cancel 2 zeros, and I have 10 over 4. My milligrams canceled. That should be an equals. So 10 divided by 4. Put that over here. Equals 2.5. But do I have 2.5 full doses? No, I have 2 full doses. Because I only want to go with the whole number. I don't care about the fraction or the decimal. So it's 2 full doses. And then how many milliliters will you give? That's your doctor's orders over 1 times your supply, your quantity over the amount, 100 milligrams. So my milligrams cancel, my zeros cancel. I have 4 times 1 divided by 1, so I'm giving 4 milliliters. And it's in an IV, so it's okay. So that leaves us with 8, which I'm going to let you do. 9 and 10. Notice there's a difference. 9 is 1 million. Because of the red 1. 10 is 5 millions. There's a red 5, and it also says 5 million right here. So it's 5 and 6 zeros. 5 million units. So I want you to work those two. You're only going to choose one of them. Which amount would you choose? I wish I could see that better. There's 18.2 milliliters gives you 250. 8.2 milliliters gives you 500. 3.2 milliliters gives me 1 million. Okay? So you're going to base it on what the doctor orders. What is something close to that? I would go with the 3.2 milliliters gives me 1 million units. That's just me though. You choose whichever one you want to. Same thing with 9. And then that's it for the reconstitution. Okay? Remember, if you got questions, you text me, email me, or message me on Canvas, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. If we need to do a face-to-face, we can do a Zoom or some kind of Google Hangout or something that I can try to help you with your problems. I will see you next time.